Get ready to embrace the truth as we bring you the most hard-hitting stories and unveil the real facts. Welcome to Hard Facts.
I am Maryann-Duke, and this is Hard Facts, where we separate truth from fiction. We're passionate about the hard-hitting stories that matter. Get ready to challenge your perception and discover the real world. Let's dive deep into the issues that affect our communities, revealing the untold stories and giving you a voice. No sensationalism, no bias, just raw, unadulterated truth. I am committed to delivering news without compromise. Hard facts as we know them, when we know them, and how they affect you. Every Monday through to Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. This will be your most authentic news experience starting now on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk. All right, it's the nation's number one talk news and sports radio station, 99.3 Nigeria Info. This is the big hard facts for today. It's our Independence Day special for today. And I did say that we're going to be looking at Nigeria yesterday, today, and Nigeria for the future. But then, of course, lots of things are involved when we're talking about Nigeria, its independence, the future, etc., etc. My guest is in the studio with me. He will be talking to us about some of the things that are happening in the country today and, of course, the way forward. My guest is the state chairman for the ADC here in Lagos State. His name is George Ashiru. Mr. Ashiru, so good to have you join us in the studio. Good evening.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to be here.
All right. It's good to have you in the studio. All right, let's start by looking at Nigeria. I mean, today I've been listening to the radio all the way till I got into the studio, and a lot of Nigerians don't sound generally happy about the situation of things. I mean, Nigerians normally would celebrate independence, would see it's a pomp and ceremony kind of situation, but we've not necessarily experienced that in the past 8 years, and now it's gotten even worse. How do you think we got here?
Nigerians have not celebrated anniversary of Nigeria since 1982.
Are you sure?
Definitely.
I was born in 83. I saw the celebrations, a couple of
those
low-key celebrations.
Yeah, those ones were the ones that the state governors tried to, back when we were much younger, the federal government was the leader when it came to celebration, especially since Lagos was the capital. So the Tafa Balewa Square was always busy, bus children from everywhere. Nigeria was not anywhere near as bad as this. Exchange rate was good. People could travel without visas, Commonwealth passports. So you'd have to go back to that time to realize that, okay, we haven't had one chance. So now we don't even know if it's the military that was the problem, because things seemed to work well when the military was in power, and then civilians came and it became worse. I think, generally speaking, we were handed over a precious material called Nigeria. And the government of Nigeria, I say it all the time, this anniversary is the anniversary of the government. Nigeria has existed before 1963, so we have to be careful. So that means there was a culture, there was a country, a people before then. So when you look at videos and pictures of Nigeria in the 50s, you'll be like, wow, this is Nigeria. So clearly there was something working. And then we agitated and got independence. And then so now we are celebrating 63 years of Nigerian government. And there's not been a time I ever heard anyone say, thank God. Thank God. I've never at any time since my late teenage years, started to hear, when I started to hear people say, I mean, it's been more than 35 years now where we had the famous Andrew wants to leave Nigeria. That tells you how far back things were bad.
Yeah.
So.
Now that's the past. Let's talk about the present. Like I did say, how did we get here in terms of leadership, the decisions that we've made? Many people would say, in terms of elections, there's not necessarily free, fair, and credible elections anywhere in the world. There are always skirmishes and, drawbacks here and there. But has our electoral process or the processes played a role in where we are today and how things have turned out?
No. We have tried the three key types of government systems. We've tried the military, the parliamentary, the American system, the British system, and one thing is consistent: it's bad leadership. So even when you had processes that were good, impunity means you know the law, you refuse to follow it. So that means there's a law. So there has never been a problem with the law. There's never been a problem with the processes. Parliamentary system works in countries that practice it well.
Yeah, like Kenya.
And presidential systems work in countries that practice it very well. Even countries that have military rule or dictatorship, like Dubai, they're doing extremely well. Monarchies and all that. So one thing is consistent as to why we're where we are is that, one, there's no patriotism. The average leader is not patriotic. It's not thinking Nigeria first. It's thinking me, my group, the people that put me into power. And as long as you're thinking like that, you are not going to make sacrifices that are necessary to make the country work. And we see that in our politics. The politics of winner take all, politics of, look, I'm the winner now, so I'm the champion. So, and everybody go and shut down or sit down. And I think it's an evidence, in my opinion, that patriotism is very, very, very. In fact, there is a statement that I often repeat. It's by a famous pioneer of Korean society called King Sejong. He said the only duty of a king is to love his people. The moment you love your people, every decision you make is going to be for the favor of the people.
Will be in the interest of the people. I'm of the opinion that when we talk about bad leadership, there is also room for bad followers. And these leaders that we always talk about, they didn't come from Mars, did they? This idea of me, myself, and I, is it not necessarily a reflection of who we are as a people?
We are feudalistic in culture. Our tradition is a tradition of monarchy hierarchy. It's a tradition where might is right. It's been a tradition back to all our various villages and cultures where the king is all powerful. The chiefs could kill anyone at will. Whatever the father said was what went. Wives didn't have a voice. So our culture has already given that kind of almost divine power to their leaders. And so we watch them. So whatever you see us do is because of some reflection we saw from somewhere. So I'm not going to blame the followers for the light that was reflected off the leaders. They are simply clones of the leaders. So if the leader does it right, people will follow it. Remember when a certain governor in Lagos State stopped using a siren? It became the culture. People stopped using sirens. The future governors stopped using sirens. It's so that people like mass of water. So it is where the head of the water is heading that the rest of the water will follow. So I think the key thing is that we must constantly harp on the fact that if we're not leading right, whether in the political party system, whether it's in a corporate system, whether it's in a home, whether it's in any academic environment, then we're going to produce like ourselves. We're going to produce mass production of the kind of infirmity that we may have.
Let's talk about aspects of Nigeria's economy and everything that makes the whole. As of today, one of the biggest stories is that the president's wife is saying, "Look, my husband's not a magician, so don't expect magic." And she's talked about inheriting a bad economy, etc., etc. But Garba Shehu has also spoken, saying, "No, you didn't. We did all we could to hand you over a very good economy," and so it's a them versus them. We also know that the economy has had a free fall under President Muhammadu Buhari, whether we like it or not, and then of course our debts have continuously climbed to an all-time high, even when we were promised during the campaigns that no more indebtedness. We're not going to be borrowing. But we saw the very first thing that Mr. President Tinubu did was to borrow again. Where do we even begin to deal with this issue? I know that you know a lot about how to handle the economy and all of that. Where do we even begin to start to deal with this? Because as we speak, Labour is going to be taking much more money, 35,000, I think, added to it. But what happens to the rest of us who don't work for the state government or federal government? What happens to private companies? How do we survive?
Well, to be honest, the federal government, state government are underpaying anyway. There will always be corruption if the people managing the economy are underpaid. So I've always advocated that civil service should be paid at par. with industry. As is done in other parts of the world. So if you have a degree, whether you work in the civil service, you work in an oil company, you should be at par. So them paying them well is basically just retroactively thinking about the value of the civil servants. If you don't pay people well, their performance will be below par. It's as simple as that. Performance management will tell you that if the motivation is low, the performance and the output will be low. Now, what has happened is that because governments we have had are focused half of their tenure on campaigning for the next election, they have never had a long-term thinking about setting structures up that, it takes a 10-year period, 15-year period to gestate. So when you're thinking, look, I only have 4 years, and if I don't impress, people will not vote for me, you're not going to be instituting ideals and ideas and projects that will go beyond your... Look at Third Mainland Bridge. It was conceived by somebody, built by somebody else. You know, look at NYC. It was conceived by somebody in the early 70s, and somebody else, launched it. Now, 50 years later, we can see that is how you build a nation. You establish something thinking far beyond your tenure. Now, during military rule, they could think like that because they had this understanding that they had the power, they could stay there forever. But in the civilian administrations, elections have a way of making people overpromise, underdeliver. And then when they now try to find a way, because when you overpromise, it's based on lack of information. So when you hear President Buhari during elections say dollar will be at par with the naira, because when he was in power, it was 2 to 1. So as a military ruler, that shows a person who neither knows economics or doesn't have the facts, the indices required to make such a decision. But because it's sweet to say during campaigns, you're going to hear it said, then people have expectations based on that. And those expectations can translate to corporate strategy. Somebody's going to make the strategies with the expectation that government is going to take away this, take away that, remove that. So economically speaking, we have pushed a lot of people into authority who have no understanding, deep understanding of what it takes to take a nation from where it is to where it's going.
But isn't that why you have aides and you employ technocrats and business-minded people? That's why you have an economic team with so-called professionals on it to advise you on where to go and what policies to make.
And do you know how they become technocrats? Do you know how they become special advisors? Was there an interview process? Was there an open field? These were all these are simple political people that say it's my turn, it's my turn, it's my turn. So as long as it's a Milocon, then sooner or later, and they're not going to go there to do what they believe is right. They will do what the president wants. They're going to do so. That is why if you look at the British Parliament, the opposition is right there in Parliament, directly opposite. And there are shadow cabinets everywhere, directly telling you, I can give you a different policy. And so people can see on a day-to-day basis that this is active politics, this active opposition, the ideas are now open, and so we can choose what is right. So you don't go there and mess up, because you know people are going to be given an alternative right live and direct as you are speaking. So that is the reason I say we don't even understand that culture. We didn't practice it right, and we left it behind. We jumped into American culture. We don't understand it. We've left it behind. The majority of our leaders are trained in UK, but they are practicing American economics and American politics. So now, if you are bringing together a team, the only person I can look back and said made an effort to bring together a really powerful team was Obasanjo bringing the Okonjo-Iwealas. He didn't necessarily know them. He didn't necessarily care who they were.
Well, most people would give that credit to the vice president who actually...
Regardless, that was his administration. So whether it was the vice president or anything, and the impact of it was what you saw, that the economy was solid. The income parity in terms of foreign exchange was stable. Then you saw the most important one. He was able to pay off all our debts, negotiated to pay off 30 billion plus by simply saying, look, I give you 18 billion and forget the rest. So for the first time, we exited out of a government without any critical debt. That's good management. You don't have to like the personality behind it. But the principle of it was that our economy was now rated AAA by virtue of the fact that we had very good foreign reserves and we didn't have any debt. And that's what supports the currency. Now we have huge debts. Our foreign reserves are practically neck and neck. So Nigeria can't afford to pay. If we don't earn anything, we don't have enough to pay for imports for the next 3 months, if we don't earn anything at all. So that tells you, there's nobody that is going to assume that the economy is strong enough, one, to rate it high, and then two, to support the naira against the dollar.
Mr. President started off his administration by traveling out to, in quote, bring investments, foreign direct investments, and strengthen trade relations. And with this, analysis that you've given to us, who's going to want to invest in such a crumbling economy?
Well, one thing you will know about investments, I mean, I am a consultant in the area of international investment.
Okay.
And I speak a lot to, because of my relationship with the embassies, Korean embassy, the British embassy, the American embassy, I get to speak to their various delegations, trade delegations. And one thing is consistent. They are more concerned about the fact that there's impunity in the country.
Mm-hmm.
They are more concerned about the fact that I will bring in $100 million and one single official can determine whether or not I can take out my profits. They are more concerned about the fact that the government is run by depending on the moods, the caprices of the people in authority. And as you will know from the story of Nigeria, Virgin Nigeria, he exited simply because of Nigerian officials.
Yes.
We know that is what they concern themselves more about. So the only investments we're going to see in this country right now are going to be investments where it's more or less a country trying to build a presence in a country. It's like, okay, we need to compete in Africa, and Nigeria is the biggest market, so let's go. We're not expecting to make anything for 10 years, but let us go because we need to be in that market. We can't afford to let our opponent get into that market. That's the reason you will see. So if the strategy of the company is for market share, they're not going to worry about profits. They're going to go and bring because they want market share in the largest economy. Then over time, they will begin to add the little dollars and cents to make the profits, like the Chinese are doing all over Africa now.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the issue of policies that we make in this country. A lot of people, and this is something that I want to take on as a duty, a mandate to educate us on the duties and the functions of the legislature. But let's talk about the legislature. How well do you think our legislature has done? I mean, I'm talking about from not Ken Namani. What's the man that became the SFG? Ayim Pius Ayim, all the way down. How well have they been able to interpret, to write these laws, to push these? Because again, many would say that Nigeria's system has gone from the legislature running on its own as a legislative arm of government to becoming more like a plug and play for the executive. Where do you stand on that?
I think the people who practice in that second arm of our overall government, I don't think a lot of them know that the duties attached to their roles. I think there are more people who simply picked up forms without having an understanding, a deep understanding of a lot of the issues that they are there to confront. Usually when you campaign for office, you have a particular issue for which you are going there to solve on behalf of your constituency. So if I'm in a constituency where there's a lot of erosion, that would be my campaign issue. And then when I get to the National Assembly, I would be a campaign organizer for that matter. And then that is where I develop my professional and political, bite. But what we find a lot of times is that it's kind of like osmosis. Let us just follow the trend. I cannot, for the life of me, remember any critical policy that was generated within the Houses of Assembly that became something all of Nigerians loved. Even the Freedom of Information Act, nobody's taking advantage of it. The petroleum industry bill, it took 30 years of pressure. You understand? And they still turn left, turn right, and everything. So it shows that, I think the summary of it is that, are we sure they are really representing the people? Because that is what is called the House of Representatives. So if you are not meeting, I have never got a single SMS from anyone representing my constituency in all my years on earth to say we're having a town hall meeting. Please participate.
My guy is always captured sleeping. My guy, the one who represents Calabar South, he's always captured sleeping, and then of course the rest is history.
They're not going to listen. Rather, what they will just do is make a decision as to the kind of things they feel will help people through the political processes, and they will do it. But they're not getting feedback from the people before they decide what to do at the National Assembly. So that is a snapshot of the kind of National Assembly we have. Having said that, I'm not saying every single one of them is like that, but it's osmosis who will flow where the rest are flowing. Your vote will not help if 200 and something, 300 some people are voting in one direction, except you're loud. You have to be an activist to be useful at that assembly. But you cannot go in there as an activist and within 3 months, you have become osmosis.
Interesting. I have so many things to ask you, but let's pause for a second. Lagos, we're talking about Nigeria and the roles that we all have to play and all of the moving parts. And my guest is the state chairman for the Africa Democratic Congress here in Lagos State. Yes, he is the state chairman, and he's been giving us some very interesting analysis about where we are as a country, where we've been, and where we might be going to. But the phone lines are open. If you have questions, you have comments, you want to join the conversation, please feel free. 0700 993 993 993. That's 0700 993 993 993. You could also join the conversation if you on WhatsApp. We are live on YouTube, youtube.com/Nigeria Info 99.3, and we're also live facebook.com/Nigeria Info. I could take one quick call before we go on a break. Hello, welcome to Hard Facts.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Your guest is a very intelligent. My name is Vitalis, by the way.
All right, Vitalis, go ahead.
Yeah, your guest is a very intelligent analyst. In short, I love his analytical prowess.
Okay.
The fact is still remains that when somebody like this is pinpointing what exactly is wrong with us, we tend to feel maybe it's because maybe he's not among them. That is why he's putting it down this way. But anyone who is very intelligent and very observant, we know that what this man is saying is just hitting the nail right on the head.
Okay.
In short, a scholar can learn a lot from him, because when you analyze issues and get it down to a kind of, I call it crumbs, people will now see, that is the ants will now see their own share to take.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for calling. I appreciate it. 60 seconds is the time that you have. But we're still talking about this issue of Nigeria. When we come back, we're going to look at powering the country. Electricity, 24 hours of electricity has seemed to, one way or the other, just elude us year after year. That even a country like Ghana is offering to... Does that not look like a slap on your face when you call yourself the big brother of Africa? Anyway, Lagos, we'll be right back after the break. My guest is still in the studio. Mr. George Ashiru is the state chairman of the Africa Democratic Congress, and we will be back to take more of your thoughts and comments right after this break. It's still Hard Facts, 99.3 Nigeria Info. I'm Maryann-Duke.
so you can take your time. The sunset from above. A visual buffet. Pictures capture moment. 100 conversations don't exhaust the tale of your new favorite filter. The salt of the sea warm on your dark skin.
I'd love to come back here. A truly immersive experience is our reality. South Africa invites you to summer with us. Create your own story with customizable experiences now. Visit southafrica.net. It's never too late to summer in SA.
Tertiary institution is stressful, but Benson Dausa University has a way of simplifying things for their students. I have been in this school for 4 years now. I have grown academically, spiritually, as well as my leadership skills. Really, it is the excellent student experience that was promised.
For more information, please visit www.biu.edu.ng or call 091 5430 8877. Benson Dahosa University, lead the change.
Us moms, we never have enough time. So when my family's day starts, I make Quaker 3-in-1 oats in an instant to get them started. It's quick 3-in-1 goodness. You just add hot water and it's ready in 2 minutes. Yes, so just add water. Quaker 3-in-1 instant oats has milk and sugar and comes in 300 grams and 50 grams. So make sure Quaker Oats 3-in-1 instant oats is on your shopping list today. Quaker goodness, now quicker.
Quaker Oats is an amazing start to your day.
This house will implement spending cuts on household essentials. First, cable subscription from premium to standard.
Aye.
Now, 3 crowns milk from...
Don't touch us. 3 crowns milk, oh.
Why?
Mom sacrifices a lot, and 3 crowns milk nourishes Mom so that she can support our family.
Moms are our treasures beyond measure. So treasure Mom with low cholesterol 3 crowns milk today. 3 crowns milk. Healthy moms, happy families.
Aha! It's celebration time at ShopRite. Introducing ShopRite's anniversary promotion starting 25th September to 22nd October 2023. Stand the chance to win several gift items like TV sets, microwave ovens, and so much more. And the big one, an opportunity to enter the grand finale where one lucky person will win a Toyota Corolla car. Want to be part of it? Spend 20,000 naira buying 3 or more of the participating brands. Get a unique code and an SMS will be sent to you. Winners will be randomly selected weekly. 28 days of daily winnings till the 22nd of October 2023 at the ShopRite Anniversary Promotion. This promotion is approved by NLRC and FCCPC. Terms and conditions apply. Check in store for more details. ShopRite. Lower prices you can trust always.
Don't worry, ma. Everything is settled.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Babe, what was that about?
It is the representative of Westgate Life Care. You know my birthday is almost here, and I'll be using their birthday up. That means they're providing the space, food and drinks, music, games, and every other thing. We're just going to show up and turn up.
Yes, Lagos. Celebrate your birthday in a grand style using our Westgate Birthday Hub, where we provide everything to make your birthday memorable, fun, and classic, all at a very affordable rate. You just show up with friends and family and turn up. Also a space to network and have business meetings. What are you waiting for? Call this number to make your bookings today. 0816-640-6200. Your all-in-one birthday package. Westgate Birthday Hub. Your dream birthday. A perfect plan.
I won't tell you now about one revolutionary product from one German company. Them call them Knauf Majestic Skimming Plaster. You no need bonding agent or POP pen to mix them. Not just water, you fit mix them and still use them after 24 hours. No the cake at all. One bag they cover 22 square meters and pure white. Big construction company they use them well to save cost plus good finishing. Other benefits be say they minimize waste well and it still gets superior finishing when they prevent cracks. Knauf they for kilometer 42 Ekpe Expressway near Crown Estate. Their number now 0807-963-7171.
Vitamin A, vitamin B6, vitamin B12, vitamin...
Jason, why do you have so much bread slices?
Because I want to eat all the 7 vitamins in the golden penny spread.
No, Jason, that's not how it works. You get the 7 vitamins in every spread you make on a slice, no matter how little.
Golden Penny Spread is fortified with 7 essential vitamins and plant-based fats that gives you energy. Now available in a new sleek rectangular pack. Available in stores nationwide. Golden Penny Spread. Spread the nourishment.
Come with me. Bask in freedom. There are no deadlines here. Hurry so you can take your time. The sunset from above. A visual buffet. Pictures capture moment. 100 conversations don't exhaust the tale of your new favorite filter. The salt of the sea warm on your dark skin.
I'll love to come back here. A truly immersive experience is our reality. South Africa invites you to summer with us. Create your own story with customizable experiences now. Visit southafrica.net. It's never too late to summer in SA.
You are listening to your number one station for talk.
Your number one station for talk.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Nigeria Info.
Nigeria's hub for information,
News.
sports, and more.
Get involved. It's 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Let's talk.
Still is the hard facts, and Lagos, it's 150,000 naira. That is the magic number today, because that is how much OnePlay.ng wants to put in your pocket. And all you have to do is commit the lump sum of 200 naira. Yes, 200 naira. You play this game and you could be one of the winners today. All you have to do is pick up your phone and dial *347 *880 *3#. Cost you 200 naira from your phone, then follow the prompt. What is this prompt? Well, you would see a prompt asking you to specify the number of tickets that you want to play. Specify between 1 and 10. Then choose your bank, and in the next prompt, choose 1 to continue. And just like that, you get an SMS giving you clear instructions on how to make payments. Once you make these payments, you're on the draws. These draws will be happening on any of these 3 shows. What's Up Lagos? It already happened from 11:15 to 11:25 a.m. Game On from 8:15 to 8:25 p.m. every other weekday, has to be said. Chat Station from 10:15 to 10:25 p.m. every other weekday. Remember, it's not the UAP that picks your number, it's a system. All we do here is announce. So the code is *347 *880 *3#. It will cost you 200 naira from your phone. Remember, very importantly, that you are not eligible for this game if you are below the age of 18. And if you are above the age of 18, make sure you are playing and playing responsibly. That said, terms and conditions apply. Start playing, start winning, and start sharing money.
The big hat facts, and I still have in the studio the state chairman of the Africa Democratic Congress ADC here in Lagos State, in the person of George Ashiru, and we've been looking at several aspects of the Nigerian economy. I did say we were going to talk about powering Nigeria when we came back from the break, Mr. Ashiru. This seems to be that scenario, or that picture that Jesus painted, that it'd be easier for a horse to pass through the eye of a needle, than for us to have 24 hours power supply. And many people would say that this is not a hard thing, to do, but we, in quotes, the giant of Africa, might be accepting a handout from Ghana.
If you look at all the key sectors of our industry that had a lot of investment back in the 70s, Kainji Dam, Ashiru Dam, and all the others, if you look at the investments that we put into petroleum and natural gas, if you look at the investment we put into infrastructure, bridges, airports, roads, there's never been a time that we didn't have those kinds of monies as well to invest in power. But you see, power, we make the mistake of thinking power is for domestic use. Power is for industry. So if you had an industrial revolution, if you had the wisdom that Ajaokuta had to work so that we could produce steel so that our factories could work, if you understood that without power your industries would die and you would not be competitive, economies of scale means people would rather import rather than try to produce. So as long as you don't have that knowledge or that wisdom or that interest, you're not going to see why you should put aside $2 billion during your tenure for power. $2 billion? What? How much in naira? And it's like, no, just take 50. Take 50. And, so basically you are managing something that's collapsing rather than rebuilding it. So we have never had an industrial revolution in Nigeria. We've never had any government say, I'm going to make Nigeria the hub of car manufacturing, the hub of generator manufacturing. Because of the demand for generators, is no longer going to be built in and brought from China My neighbor passed my own.
But we would not need generators if we've got 24 hours
But
light.
the bottom line is that it is industrial revolution that gives the incentive to have good power. You understand? So the way government is seeing it is that, we're just going to spend 2 billion. They see it as CSR. We're just going to spend 2 billion to build power. And then these people, so that they can have 24 hours light in their houses. It is not their houses. Houses can use windmill. They can use solar.
I mean, we're all using inverters these days.
Yes, you can use anything.
Yes.
But industries, it costs them much more to produce one single ingot of steel compared to importing it from China.
Absolutely.
Because the cost of electricity is much higher. And so because you do not know, you don't have enough engineers in government and in politics who are saying, look, we need to start investing in cars, investing in things that we can reproduce and export. Then we're going to be a trading economy, and a trading economy does not need it's just warehousing you need and shops. So there is no precedent in his right mind that will invest in electricity unless there is a push for industrial revolution.
And you don't think that the time is now?
I'm not saying it shouldn't be. The time was there in 1960.
But the next best time is now.
So if the president is listening, rather than thinking politically, rather than thinking, no, this the activist talking or his analyst talking, he should take, like the gentleman said, he should take this information and say, this man is a Nigerian, is a patriot. He's giving information as to what we need to give us the motivation to develop. We don't have the motivation to develop.
We have an interesting guy that's running the economy. A lot of people have applauded the fact that Mr. President picked him to run the economy. I'm guessing that he should know that, right? Because he's not just there to be a minister. He's also like an advisor to Mr. President. So he brings ideas to the president. So I'm always saying this because in governments come and go, and these people, they pluck them from different places and say these guys are good. But then is it that they give the ideas and the man who's seated there is so, I don't know, self-serving that they jettison those ideas? I mean, for the want of a better way to describe it, I'm just wondering.
Margaret Thatcher once had a deputy prime minister who said, I am your deputy prime minister. I am like the person you give a gun, but no bullets. So essentially, you don't expect him to score. So you may have people in government who are there as you have fulfilled the quota. All right, so what do you have to say? Okay, come next week, come next month, come next week, come next month, come next month. And then if you come with ideas, most of them are cost, they have cost implications. So the president is going to look at it and say, I cannot get $1 billion. I cannot get $2 billion. Okay, what is the next best alternative? No. Okay, why don't I go and sell it to the public? Why don't I do what Obama used to do? Go around the country selling, why he needs to bail you out, selling why he needs to get you out of the out of the economic crunch of the 2008 collapse of the markets. And he went and gave money out and saved a lot of industries. He had to go and sell it. It wasn't taken for granted. Look at COVID.
But he believed it for him to be able to sell it.
Thank you. But somebody took it to Obama too. Obama didn't know everything. As intelligent as he was, he had people around him that said, look, this is the best way forward. And then instead of him seeing it as a political albatross, he saw it as an opportunity to serve, and he went and pushed it. So when you have good policies, if the president wants us to suffer, let it be for a righteous cause.
Lovely. Well, in case you're just joining us, it's the Big Hard Fact, and it's our Independence Day special. We're looking at Nigeria's problems, Nigeria before now, Nigeria today, and Nigeria of the future. Before I ask my future questions, Lagos, the phone lines are open. 0700 993 993 993. That's 0700 993 993 993. The phone lines are open. Let's talk. How do we drive these vehicles onto the expressway that's smooth and that can take us to our destination? And the vehicle here, I'm talking about Nigeria. 0700 993 993 993. If you're a lady, call 01 465 7190. Send me a WhatsApp message. Join the conversation on Twitter with the hashtag HardFact. Or you can join us if you're listening from outside of the country via Skype. We're Nigeria Info on Skype. Hello, welcome to Hard Fact.
Evening, Maryann.
Good evening.
Evening, our gentleman guest in the house.
Good evening, sir.
I said a lot of things. What I sense the major problem is that people who shouldn't find themselves in the corridor of power, are the people who are in power, and then they hold grip, to power. They are in the judiciary, the executive, and most especially they are in the civil service. Of which the civil service has become a compensating avenue, for people who work well for politicians.
Mm-hmm.
And if these people are in civil service, then we are in a mess. I think going forward, Nigerians should bring in people into power, by whichever means. Because some way, somehow, this legitimate means is being questioned because getting into power in Nigeria, is by whatever means you can get into the power. And then if we have the people who get into...
What are you suggesting? Are you suggesting a state of anarchy? When you
No,
say
not
by
state of
whatever
anarchy.
means.
Not state of anarchy. Listen, there are technicalities about getting into power. The court proved it, and then the previous election proved it.
More conversation, more talk, more right after this.
Well, we apologize for that mix-up there. Well, we're still taking your thoughts and your comments. 0700 993 993 993. We just have about 4 minutes before we go on that quick break. Hello. Welcome to Hard Facts.
Hello, my name is Bola.
Hi, Bola. Go ahead.
So I'm calling from. So that is exactly what I've been thinking about this palliative they are giving. They should carry that palliative to the power. So when they carry that one to the power, then they know what to do again. We have, even though I know that it is for industry, but the people even will enjoy it. The people that are living in the area, in the residential area, they will enjoy it. But to do the power for the people that will do the company and all this, it will be very, very useful for them. So that's what I've been thinking here.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for calling. I appreciate it. Someone here says, there was a write-up on my Facebook page. Nigeria would remain stagnant as long as we're practicing unitary government in incognito of federalism. Then, for as long as there is no social contracts appended to by major ethnic majorities, we're heading nowhere. If the colonial masters Britain could have social contracts among themselves, if USA could have, the Emirates could have, what's stopping Nigeria? And he says we're sliding into implosion. Do you necessarily agree with him?
Unfortunately, because Nigeria is so diverse, this subject matters are subjectively viewed. So while the gentleman, I believe it's a gentleman, sent something
Yes.
that makes a lot of critical sense. When it's sold, it has to be carefully sold in such a way that nobody's going to feel there's an incognito way of somebody imposing their own ideas all over other tribes, other groups, other regions of the country. So social contracts are very, very subjective in the nature in which they are crafted. So that's why it's a very touchy area to go to. But we can have an economic contract, which everybody will benefit from.
Yeah.
Which means, what is the strength of the North? Let's invest in that strength. What is the strength of the Niger Delta? Let us invest in that strength.
Absolutely.
So if we know power is going to come from North Central, then let the whole of Nigeria agree that we'll invest in North Central for power. And it belongs to all of us.
Okay.
So that automatically means that this idea of derivatives, this idea of whatever comes from my town or my state is mine, that would then change. Then becomes ours. It's an area I try to be careful to make.
It's very sensitive, isn't it?
Sensitive, yes.
Well, you can join the conversation on WhatsApp. It's 0809-5975-805. That's 0809-5975-805. We would like to hear from you. Join the conversation. 465-7190 if you're a lady. For the gentlemen and everybody else, call 0700 993 993 993. That's 0700 993 993 993. Let's talk about the future. We have very little time. Where do we go from here? Because reading about all of the situation, the things that are happening in the country, many people are still questioning Mr. President's authenticity with the situation of the Chicago certificate and, a case of forgery that Atiku Abubakar is pursuing. The fact that, palliatives are being given, but then people don't know what data they're using in sharing all of these things. The trust deficit generally that Nigerians have, or the love-hate relationship we have with our leaders. Where do we go from here?
There is hardly any government in the world that the people trust anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The nature of governments, modern governments, has been taking and giving nothing. So it doesn't matter what the government is trying to do. People will not trust them. The only thing they can trust is what they see, results. So the government should not bother trying to oversell. They should simply go and push for these initiatives to bring forth results, viable, visible results. For example, there was a time that a past president took a loan of 1 trillion naira to fund the Nigerian military to face Boko Haram. Has that threat has it been exited?
Who's accounting for the money? I think that's the other question.
Then that's another story. But it's just an example of why if somebody else comes to us in the future and says, I need 1 trillion for the same purpose, you know what we're going to say?
No.
What happened with it? So impunity is a reason why we don't trust government. Abuse of power, mismanagement of resources, a civil service that is old school, that won't change, and a lack of accountability to the people, and the electoral lack of accountability either. The fact that there's a lot of misjudgment and mistrials in the tribunals is enough to tell us that something went wrong. Now, let me get to what I think the future should be like. The government has to make a decision. I am not going to make decisions that are based on a 1-year cycle, 2-year cycle. I'm a former athlete, a former elite athlete.
Really?
Yes, and a former president of a national sport. You don't produce an Olympic athlete in 1 year. Take 8 to 12 years.
Yep.
So if you don't start early, bagbe, as they say, you if you don't start, and starting means you must have a budget for the entire 8-year cycle. You must have a plan to consistently ensure that what is required for that athlete over 8 years produce. Otherwise, you will not produce. That's why we cannot duplicate Chomajua. That's why we cannot duplicate our football team. Other nations who are doing so are getting the results. So if a government is not going to get results, it's going to get insults. So it is better for you to think of your legacy rather than to think of applause. What I'll be telling the government now is that if we have decided we must suffer, make sure our children see the benefit of the suffering. So decisions you are taking now should not be short-term. Invest in education. Invest in healthcare. Invest in the critical requirements of society. The old get healthcare, they are happy. The young get education, they have a future. Once you have those two, invest in infrastructure so that quality of life is good. So infrastructure does not mean just the roads. Infrastructure means even things like ponds, like gardens, so that clean air can be breathed, and all the things that cause diseases. So I think that if we are all in this boat together, this red ocean, then at least let's ensure that there's no waterfall at the end. Instead, we're going to get to dry land.
Let's hope that Uhuru is somewhere close by for us. Let's hope that is the case. But let me see if I can quickly squeeze in one quick call. Hello. Welcome to Hard Facts. Sorry about that. 0700 993 993 993. I can take one quick call. Hello. Welcome to Hard Facts.
Good evening, Maria.
Good evening. You have to go straight to the point, please. You have 50 seconds.
It's okay. My name is Godwin, calling from Loshoro.
All right.
Until we have leaders that have fear of God, that has conscience, otherwise, all this other one, they are just rulers that are after their personal money and children yet unborn.
Okay.
Most of them don't have the Nigerians in their heart. Rather, just to get foreign account and their children unborn, to carry our sweat to care for the until we have those that have the fear of God. Otherwise, we are only making noise year to year, and at the end, they come in again, use their money to just convert people to put themselves into the authority.
All right. Thank you very much for calling, Mr. George Ashiru. I want to say thank you very much for being here. Great conversation. We're hoping, yes, here's to hoping that we will hit that Uhuru sometime soon. Just as you said, let's hope that we're suffering for the right reasons, and that we get to rip the.
Well, I will say amen to that, and thank you, and God bless Nigeria on 63 years.
Yes, Judge Ashiru is the state chairman for the Africa Democratic Congress. That's the ADC here in Lagos State. A pleasure. Thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure.
All right. Well, Lagos, we'll take a quick break. When we come back from this break, I will be saying my goodbyes on the show. But stay with us. It's still the nation's #1 talk news and sports radio station, 99.3 Nigeria Info.